Welcome everyone, just a fun song to play. Guitarist 221 Les Paul 190 had suggested this back when I did another Bad Company song off of this album. And No Smoke Without a Fire, I'm like, wow, this really rocks. And it does. It's a lot of fun to play. It's very approachable, very approachable. The leads aren't overly difficult and well-structured song. Some great little licks that lead into other things. So we'll talk about that. Dangerous Age was such a good album back when Brian Howe, may he rest in peace. Wonderful vocals. So with that said, we are in standard tuning. I grabbed out my EVH guitar because I could tell the first lick that you hear really had a kind of a whammy bar, and some of the other licks do too. So, not sure who's playing the actual licks that you hear the whammy bar on. But anyhow, so I got out the old EVH Wolfgang, and I love this guitar. It's right up there. It plays as well as my Gibson. Sounds just as good for what you needed. So with that said, we'll get into the actual lesson. Like I said, standard tuning. I've written out my notes. Just go ahead and download that. That'll help you. There really isn't much online for this, so I'm sure between this and the tab, it'll really help you play this song. Okay, so this intro is 4 measures long with a lead that is over the last 2 measures. So we learn this first measure, it'll repeat 3 more times with a lead over the second 2. Alright, so we're going to start out with deaden the strings, hit twice. Alright, then we're going to mute an E power chord, open 6th, 2nd fret 5th, then muted 6th string twice, then we mute the 3rd fret of the 6th string pulled down back to an E power chord. Alright, now the difficult part of this song, I turned off my delay and reverb because that adds some of the ambience that they have going on in this. So a delay that's maybe a couple repeats and a bit of reverb. But what he does, and I'll show you an option for playing this if you just want to do it all together. But like you saw me in the intro, we're going to go up, reference an E, basically power chord, and hammer on to an A. Alright, so we'll be covering the 3rd and 2nd string at 9, hammering in onto the 10th fret, the 2nd string, and we do that twice while the 3rd string rings out. Again, it's a lot cleaner. So that's the problem. You've got this distorted guitar answered by a much cleaner guitar. So you know, it's one of those things, just play it, who cares, or don't play it. I usually don't play the cleaner part. I just play this heavier part. But that's the first half measure. So we've got this. So I'm sorry, that was 3. 2 deadened hits, and then alright, now we have this. Now we're going to do that exact same deadened E. So sorry. Then you're going to hear them referencing this would be a D coming into E. Okay, so all we'll be doing is the second and first string at, let's see, that's the 10th fret up to 12. So he hits it and then hits it twice quickly and slides up. Alright, so then you're back in and starting this lick over. So I'll go through that, and then I'm going to show you an alternate, which I did in the intro, just to give you an idea of what else you can do, just as far as an inversion of these same chords that sound real similar. Alright, so we have this. Alright, what you can do instead of this is come up here, reference an E, so we take it a D chord, moved it up. We're just going to use the first string at the 4th fret and the second string at the 5th fret, and then hammer on, which would hammer on and reference the A. So E to A, just like we did here. Alright, we'll just be doing it here. So you can hit those 2 strings, hammer in to that first string. Alright, now we go through the lick. Now you can do the top half of a D chord. First and second string, hit that once, and then 2 more times quick, sliding up. So you'd have this. And that slide up even gets kind of missed when they go into the actual verse. It almost sounds like he's just hitting, because as he's sliding up, the A comes in, kind of. But anyhow, those are options. So that whole section will be repeated 4 times, and then we're into the verse. So let's go through the lead first. I usually save the leads to last, but I absolutely love this intro lead. I think it's well done, so we'll cover that next. So the intro lead starts out in the 2nd position of the pentatonic scale, E minor. Alright, so what we're going to do is come up here to 17 and give that a bend slowly and then a release. Then we hit 15 to 17 and land on 16 on the 3rd. Then you'll hear him use some whammy bar, and then he just slides off. So all together, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, we answer that at the 12th position. Alright, 12th fret, 2nd string. Basically hitting 12 and then a quick 15 with a slow bend. And then we take off. We're going to hit 12 on the 1st string, coming to the 2nd string, 15 to 12, and then the 3rd string, 14, bent and release, pulled off to 12, and then another 14 to 12, pull off, landing on 14 on the 4th. Then we come back to 12 on the 3rd to 14 on the 4th string with some vibrato. Alright, so let's do that. Let's just take it from the whole beginning, slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. kind of slides down from there, and you don't really pick this lick up, but it's there. It's very quick, and it's just before we go into the verse. And what he's doing, coming back to that 4th string at the 12th fret with a hammer on to 14, and then hitting 12 on the 3rd string back to 14 on the 4th twice. And then you're into the verse. Again, it gets a little lost, that last lick, but it's there. So, one more time. Hell, this is fun. 1, 2, 3, 4. Into the verse. So we're into the verse. Verse has really 3 measures. The first 2 are exactly the same. So let's go through one measure of it, talk about that. What we're going to do is hit a power chord for about 4 counts. Then we're going to pull down on the 3rd string, or 6th string 3rd fret slightly, back to an A, back to that G note, 3rd fret, 6th string, slight pull down. And that pull down takes place of our muted notes, because we come right into the lick. We don't do that. We just go right into it. Alright, so it will sound like this. Alright, we do our little lick. I'll just do it up here because I'm zoomed in. And like I said, it gets buried again because we come back with our A. And then, after we do that second D slid up, we're going to do something a little different, more of kind of a bridge leading us into the chorus. You'll hear this. And that takes us into the chorus. Alright, so there's a couple little licks here. I'm going to show you the very first one, which is probably my most favorite lick of this whole song. I just love the way it leads into the C chord. We're going to start out on the 3rd string from the 2nd fret, slide up to 4, grab the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, hit that, and then we'll come back to 4 on the 3rd string, pulled off to 2, and then hit open. It's not a full pull off all the way, it's a pull off and then a hit. It's really just a timing thing. You can do the full pull off, nobody would know the difference. Alright, but what he's truly doing is hitting that note separately and then going to a C chord. Then he goes to an A chord. Then he does basically the opening lick without 2 hits at the end. Alright, so what we're doing is hitting 15, bending that up, catching 12 on the 1st string. That 15 bent up is on the 2nd string. Catch 12 on the 1st, back to 15, 12, 14, bent and release, pulled off to 12, and end on 14. That is when he is doing a C chord. When he ends that lick, they have already moved to a D chord. Alright, when you hear the D chord, there's another lick. I don't really play this lick much. It's 14 bent up, catching, that's on the 3rd string, catching 15, and then 15 slid up to 17. And then they're into the solo, because I really enjoy doing the D to E power chords, which takes us into the chorus. All right, so let me zoom out. I never know which way's in or out. Yeah, there we go. So I will start with the lick and then into the C. Then we come to D. And then we're into the chorus. All right. So the chorus. Again, I've written this out. That'll definitely help. The chorus is E to C, A to D. And there's a couple muted between each one. Then we come to C, A, then our D. Now, instead of a couple mutes, we're going to hit D again and slide to E. And then our E. It's almost harder to do slower. Then you're back into the intro. They reprise it for 2 measures. Now there are some licks, but I honestly, I couldn't pull them out of the mix. I'm really not sure what he's doing. You could do the same licks you heard in the intro. They're fine over these 2. I just couldn't pull it out. There are some licks in the song that are so buried in the mix. You hear them, but not sure what they're doing. So I wrote out what I could. Then we're into verse 2. Verse 2 is just like we learned with verse 1. Same with chorus 2. And after chorus 2, we don't go back and reprise the intro. We go to an interlude. So like I say, after chorus 2, we go into the interlude 1, I call it. All right. And then the solo rhythm. The solo rhythm is basically the intro rhythm. And so forth. But the interlude is C to D twice. Actually 3 times, I'm sorry. That is the solo rhythm. 4 measures long. We'll go over the solo after all of this. After the 4th measure, they come into interlude 2. You can do the licks. A, so C to A. D, and then E. So the last chorus, which is chorus 3 after this second interlude, chorus 3 starts out blank. He does a full measure of what would be the chorus, but it's just vocal and drums. Then they kick in. And that chorus, even though he sings a little different, he repeats some of the stuff that would have changed chords earlier, we just keep doing the chorus out and it will fade out. Alright, so that takes us out of the song. That is the whole song. We'll go over the solo next. Like I said, it's very approachable. Basically, it's all E minor. Really, mostly pentatonic. We touch a little bit into the major scale, but that's fine. So we'll go over that next. The first lick you'll hear will sound like this. Alright, I think he uses the whammy bar in that too, but anyhow, what we're doing is first string 15 bent up and then 15 unbent to 12, landing on 15 on the second. Then we're going to bend 15 on the second again, catching 12 on the first to 15 pulled off to 12. Then come to the third string at 14 bent and release pulled off to 12, and then another 14 to 12 pulled off. landing on the 4th string at 14, like I said, with 2 bends that I think he does with the whammy. So slowly, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, the next lick you'll hear, we're going to stay on this 3rd string. We're going to do 12 to 14 bent, and then 14 pulled off to 12 twice. Then we slide back after we pull off to 12. Again, we slide to 11 and hit 12 pulled off to 11. Alright, so we have this. Then what we're going to do is catch 14 on the 4th string, pulled off to 12 twice, and then slid off. Alright, so we have this all together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now we're going to come up to the 2nd position of the E minor pentatonic. We're going to hit 17, bend that up, and then 17 pulled off to 15 twice, landing on 17 on the 2nd. And slide down. The 2nd time, very similar, but what we do instead of pulling off twice, we're going to do a bend and release and pull off to 15, then a pull off. And land on 17 on the 2nd. Slide off. Now we come back to this 12th position and we start out with a bend on 15 and 15 on the 2nd string, bend up while we catch 15 on the 1st. Alright, so what we're doing, again, bending the 2nd string and hitting the 1st string at 15. Then we hit 15 bent, and then catch 12 on the 1st string, back to 15 and 12, no pull off. Then 14 on the 3rd string with a bend and release, pull off to 12, and then 14 to 12, again, no pull off. 14 on the 4th, back to 12 on the 3rd. And then we just take our finger, roll it up, and catch 12 on the 4th string, hammered into 14. Alright, so that whole lick slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then he follows that up with a lick we're very familiar with. It's basically one from the intro. That ends it. Alright, so we're bending up 15 on the 2nd string, coming up to 12 on the 1st, back to 15 on the 2nd, pulled off to 12. 3rd string, 14 bent and release, pulled off to 12. Pull off from 14 to 12, and landing on 14, which takes us into the outro. So that's all of the solo. I really hope this helps everybody. It's really fun to play, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Take care.